Hey guys, it's Zach the Gear Guy, OGE, and I am coming back at you with another edition of Zach the Gear Guy Predicts for SHW 44, the anniversary show. Um, the anniversary show, still here for whatever you want to call it. We've got a lot to dive into. And mind you, this card is to coincide with episode 10 of the Gear Logs. Um, whole nother gear. Whole nother gear. Whole nother gear. 10 you believe it. I mean, 10 you believe it. We've gotten to 10 episodes so far in the Gear Logs. Trust me, episode 5 just dropped. That was meant to come out in the summer. We are currently my editor is currently working on 6. I cannot wait for you guys to see that, along with 7, 8, and 9. Those are grinding soon, as of the time of recording this. But I do have the full card for SHW 44, the anniversary show, still here for whatever you want to call it. And just as a little disclaimer, no one has paid me to endorse them. No one has, swayed their opinions to me. This is all my thoughts, my opinions, my raw reactions to the card. And let's have a little guessing game, shall we? Put down in the comment section below who you think will win, who you think will lose. Will I get most of the predictions right? Will I get most of the predictions wrong? You will have to find out in episode 10 of the Gear Logs. So, let's dive into the card. Enough jibber jabber. Let's dive into it. We have 2 technical wizards in the state of Georgia. That being formerly known as a tag team, Technical Excellence. I'm talking about Kennesaw's own Chip Day, who's a 2-time Technical Wrestler of the Year, and Kyle Matthews, who's a 8-time Georgia Technical Wrestler of the Year. So much so, he's won it that many times, they named the award basically after him, that being the Kyle Matthews Technical Wrestler of the Year award. For the Georgia Wrestling History Awards. So, and just a quick spoiler warning, for episode 9 going into this, I did have a word with Chip Day. And boy, that interview, it didn't necessarily terrify me by any means, but just with Chip's new, like I've said this multiple times before, this new edge, this new attitude, this new drive, it really was seen in there, and he had a lot of stuff to say to get off his mind. But I can't wait for you guys to see that. But last month, after Kyle Matthews lost the IWTV World Championship, courtesy of Chip Day, to AC Mac. AC Mac retained. We have Chip gets in the ring, cuts this promo, and he says, "It's about time, you recognize that I'm the better technical wrestler than you are." After he claimed it's time professional wrestling did something for Chip Day. I'm tired of giving. So not only do you have, usually it's one fall with 20, 30 minutes, maybe 60 depending on the match. But for you to beat somebody once, trust me, when I was in the ring with Cruel, it was probably 20-minute time limit, and boy, did I feel it afterwards backstage. to not only beat somebody once, but then have to do it again for a second time for best 2 out of 3. It's going to be rough. We don't know the time limit on this one. So it's going to be intriguing, in my opinion, to see who will win this one. Obviously, let's consider the facts here. These two know each other very well, being over 300, being almost a year as as tag team champions within SHW. Who's the better man here? Listen, all due respect to you, Kyle Matthews. You are a great technical wrestler. I love you to death, man. I respect you. You are a great pro wrestler in the industry. But I did go to Kennesaw State University. Chip is from Kennesaw. So I'm going to say, at the end of the day, should Chip hold on the better, longer? Should Chip go the distance? I think Chip Day will win this 2 out of 3 falls match easily. So I'm going Chip Day on this one. Oh boy. This one totally terrifies me. We have a last man standing match. Now, I've never seen a last man standing match. I assume it's kind of like a Texas death match. Except, a pinfall doesn't necessarily have to happen outside of the ring, from what I understand. It doesn't need to happen in the ring. It can happen in the fans. It can happen in the back. It can happen basically anywhere. And the participants, well, I'm not that afraid of them, as they are. I wouldn't say as. No, I'm not going to say that because they're probably going to be watching this. But I'm not that scared of them. It's Judas versus Cyrus. Judas at SHW 33 said, and I quote, "It took 5 of your best wrestlers to pin me. And there is not one man in this world that can pin me alone." Only for Cyrus to come out. Then a bunch of craziness happened with, one guy making it, the other not being there. They finally had a chance to settle it at SHW 40. But from what I saw on IWTV, the bell didn't even ring, so there was no official match. Judas spikes Cyrus in the eye. But Cyrus is back, he's healed. And Judas last month, gets the spike from Diana because Diana holds on to it. And he looks and he says, "Last man standing, nobody's safe." He then looks at me and Diana, and he strictly looks me in the eyes, and he says something. I don't know. I have my ear things in. I don't really hear it, and I asked Diana, "What did he say?" And I couldn't really hear her, so who knows? In fact, GB and Brandon have gone on to say, hopefully we can get a cage for this one. Hopefully we can get something to keep not only myself, but Diana, Gerard, and Brandon safe. Because this could go all over the place. And knowing these two, they probably brawled down to Reformation Brewery at SHW 40 when they went. And again at SHW 39. But who knows where this brawl could end up. It could end up ending at Reformation Brewery. It could end up at Atomic Biscuit. Who knows where it could end up at. I don't see either men staying down for its end count. Anyway, one man has to take it, and I think it's probably going to be it's too close for me to call this one, honestly, now thinking about it. But I'd probably say the favorite here is Judas, because Judas has been wrestling in and out every week, whereas Cyrus has been wrestling in Japan for the past month. So I think Judas has the upper hand here. But it could go to either guy, so I'm going to say neutral on this one. I don't care if it's Judas, I don't care if it's Cyrus. Just as long as we get a classic match and one man stays down for a 10 count, I'm happy. Although I do think Judas is more championship motivated than Cyrus. Next up we have the first ever DDP Diamond Cup Invitational, meaning Diamond Dallas Page, who has been here, who has supported Southern Honor since day one, and has been a major, almost not figurehead I'd say, but has been like a major support system, is running this cup tournament. So we're gonna have 2 rings, 6 participants each side, so 12 men, old and new SHW faces. We do not know who's going to be in this. We don't know what old faces are returning. We don't know what new faces are going to show up. It's just like the Rumble Jack. You never know until the day of. Because if I got to meet the Rock and Roll Express, who's to say that Jake Roberts can't participate in this thing? What? And if I can meet Ernest the Cat Miller, and if Ernest the Cat Miller can actually be competing in the Rumble Jack or Jimmy Wang Yang, who's saying that somebody like Alan Angels can't be in this thing? Who knows? But not only that, so it's casino battle royale rules, meaning over the top rope and both feet touch the floor. Last man standing in ring number 1 and ring number 2 have a one-on-one match, and the winner will win the first annual Diamond Dallas Page Diamond Cup Invitational, which will be awarded to the winner by none other than WCW legend, WCW or ECW, NWO legend, Buff Bagwell will be making a special appearance at SHW Still Here 4. He'll be meeting and greeting with fans, signing autographs. It's going to be a fun time. Hopefully, when I get to meet him, I guess we'll see. But not only will Buff Bagwell be making a special appearance, but so will recently the more controversial WWE legend, Eddie Long, will be making a special appearance he was at the Immortal Tattoos event, and he blocked a lot of people on Twitter. I don't follow Teddy Long, so I guess I got saved from the blockage purge, but from the blurge, meaning block purge, of Teddy Long, but it'll be cool to see him. But anyway, speaking of Jimmy Wang Yang, his daughter, Jazzy Yang, the show Yang, makes her debut against the returning Heather Monroe. Now, let me just make this clear for those of you who do not know. Our current and reigning queen in the SHW women's division is Queen Rekha Tahaka. All hail the queen. God save the queen. I love Rekha as our queen of SHW. I'm a huge supporter of Rekha. But alongside that, you could also say, is this a queendom defense? And to that I say no. No Rekha means no queendom defense. However, this could be determined as an interim, meaning until Rekha returns. So this is a non-queendom defense between Heather Monroe and Jazzy Yang. Now, Heather has had a lot of history with our queen, Rekha. So, who am I going to go with here? I'm going to say Heather Monroe will win this match. And could she be in the future of Rekha Tahaka or any other woman in the division? Now, I do know, and I've seen in other companies, Brooklyn does have some beef with Jazzy. So who's stopping her? Her being Brooklyn, because she is going to be there because of the main event, which I'll get to in just a second. But who's stopping her from having a hand in this match, Jazzy versus Heather? You know, she fired All-Star Special, which I think hashtag rehire ASS, rehire All-Star Special. But I think Heather gets the victory somehow, some way, in this match. Jazzy, it'll be nice to see how she's improved, considering we've seen her for 2 years in the Rumble Jack. But Heather gets the win here. Next up, the main event of the evening. War Chamber. 2 rings. 2 cages. Team SHW versus Team Contra. Who's on Team SHW? Team SHW is ran by Gary Lamb. And his choices are as follows. Owen Knight, my captain. Gunnar Miller, my captain. The Bloodbath Behemoth Tank, the Strong Style Psycho. Murder One. And I am your savior. Hallelujah, David Ali has returned from Chicago. And they're going to take on the team of Cruel, the SHW champion. We do not know if this is a title match like War Chamber was last year. Joe Black, Carly Bravo, Sal Renaro, and Sunny Days. You gotta think there's history with Team SHW. Owen Knight and David Ali have had battles for the SHW championship. In War Chamber last year, Owen Knight beat David Ali. David Ali, earlier in that same year, handcuffed Owen Knight in a cage. Obviously, Gunner and Gary are close. But you got to think about Gunner and Tank this year at SHW 40 having that insane death match, literally trying to kill each other. It seems like a common cause now that Tank respects Gunner for doing that. So, and then you've got Murder One, who runs his own separate company, has said some stuff about Southern Honor. Who knows what? If these guys can manage to put their differences aside, Team SHW has the win. But if you look at guys like Sal and Sunny Days, who are two champions, the SFCW champion and the SHW tag team champions, they won the match and then they put out members of the Grind Club All-Star Special. Hashtag rehire All-Star Special. Then you've got Carly Bravo, who has no shortage of history between David Ali in Overkill. You've got Joe Black and Murder One, who have history in other promotions. And of course you've got Cruel and Gunner, Cruel and Owen, who have history. And you've got Owen and Carly, who have history. So, but you gotta wonder, does Contra have something planned to keep the title in their grips, to keep the SHW in their grasp? Or, thanks to Carly Bravo on Friday night saying that he's out for himself, could there be? Let me take you to some MLW history for why I said that. It was Major League Wrestling. Contra was in a War Chamber situation where Jacob Fatu and his ring name in MLW, Mads Cruel Kruger, were arguing on who the rightful leader of Contra was, only for Alexander Hammerstone and his team, Team MLW, to beat them at War Chamber, which led to some, let me just say, battles between Jacob Fatu and Mads Kruger in MLW because they couldn't get their act together. Could we see the same thing happen here with Carly and Cruel if Carly gets pinned? You know, could we see that Contra breakup like we saw in MLW? It depends if Brooklyn gets involved. Well, nobody can get involved because of the cage, but it depends. I guess we'll see. But if Team SHW slips, it goes to Contra. But I'm passionate that Gary and Murder One had that meeting and they put their differences aside for one night, that Team SHW gets it done. I think Team SHW has the advantage going into this. So, my picks again, for those of you who don't know, Chip Day versus Kyle Matthews, best 2 out of 3, going Chip Day. Last man standing, Judas versus Cyrus. I am neutral, although I will give the advantage to Judas. Jazzy versus Heather Monroe. I'm going Heather Monroe. The Diamond Dallas Page Cup Invitational. I don't know who's going to be there, but my top 5 guesses for old faces are Alan Angels, Kevin Ryan, Jordan Kingsley, Zicky Dice, Ashton Starr. I don't know who's going to be there. You never know. It's going to be exciting to see who wins it. War Chamber. Team SHW versus Team Contra. I'm going Team SHW going into this. It's going to be a fun night. I'll see you in episode 10. Whole nother gear. 10 you believe it. It's going to be a massive episode. Hold your fork. See you there.